TeleSur celebrates its 15th anniversary this Friday as a Latin American and Caribbean multimedia platform that continues to strengthen its counter-hegemony project. In the United States, Democratic candidate Joe Biden is leading Donald Trump in the presidential race in Florida. Mecca, Islam's holiest city, is preparing to welcome pilgrims for the Hajj, which begins on July 29th. From the headquarters of TeleSur English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South, and I'm Katrina Goss. This Friday, Cuban President Miguel Díaz-Canel sent a congratulatory message to our multinational channel TeleSur on the occasion of its 15th anniversary. In the message shared on Twitter, the Cuban president highlighted the legacies of Simón Bolívar, José Martí, Fidel Castro, and Hugo Chávez as the inspiration for the multimedia platform.
Querida Patricia, queridos fundadores, periodistas y técnicos.
TeleSur is that dream of freedom in the hands of Venezuelans, Argentinians, Uruguayans, Colombians, Brazilians, Cubans, and an infinite number of intellectuals from our America. TeleSur was founded and made possible by the intelligence, the will, and the dreams of two of its most distinguished and brave children, Fidel Castro and Hugo Chávez. From Havana, where the new TeleSur studios are growing, where the idea of its creation was born, to the already historic sites of Caracas, where it was launched into the world as a small television station that later became the giant nightmare of the empire's liars and its regional lackeys, comes the encouragement and commitment of those who no longer know, nor can, nor will accept to live without TeleSur. We hug you in the distance as we witness with happiness and enthusiasm the powerful flight of TeleSur, 15 years after its creation, cleansing the murky waters of the contemporary digital world to all continents, in Spanish and in English, in America, in Europe, in Africa, in Asia, and in the Middle East. You can always count on Cuba, which feels like the seed, branch, and flower of this dream of integration that together we made possible. Congratulations, TeleSur.
En español y en inglés, en América, en Europa, en África, en Asia.
In other news, Tropical Storm Gonzalo has triggered hurricane warnings as it moves towards the Lesser Antilles. According to the National Hurricane Center based in the U.S. state of Florida, a tropical storm warning is now in effect for Barbados, as well as for St. Lucia and St. Vincent and the Grenadines, which means that tropical storm conditions are expected somewhere within the next 36 hours. A hurricane watch was previously in effect for Barbados and remains in effect for Trinidad and Tobago and Grenada.
50 miles an hour with a minimum pressure of 1,000 millibars as a 12
In Trinidad and Tobago, Minister of Communications Donna Cox has pleaded with the population to be responsible and follow public health guidelines on COVID-19 following the confirmation of new cases over the past few days. Speaking during a virtual press conference, the minister also highlighted the situation in the Bahamas following a surge in COVID-19 cases there.
We will still have COVID. COVID will still be in the world. We have 15 million cases. We will still have COVID. Who do you want leading the COVID response? I want Dr. Keith Rowley. Keep wrong shops open. Is he sunshine? But do you know what is the hallmark of a brilliant leader? A brilliant leader, a great leader, doesn't take you where you want to go. He takes you where you ought.
The Parliament of Antigua and Barbuda will be asked to extend the state of emergency by another 3 months. The measure provides the government with extraordinary powers to take action in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Parliamentarians will next week debate extending the measure until October 31st.
It gives the government the coverage under that particular provision to be able to have the flexibility of imposing different curfew restrictions. This does not indicate that we perceive that there is any worsening of the situation, but the government must have that particular option. Both the curfew and the regulations would come to an end at the 31st of July. We cannot put the curfew in place, an extended curfew in place, without the emergency powers. So once the Parliament approves that on Tuesday, more than likely at the following cabinet meeting, we will extend the curfew period as well. I can't see that there's any issue on the ground right now that is before us that will cause us to alter that beyond 11 to 5 where they are. But again, that's a decision that the cabinet will make next week. There's going to be no issuance of any new work permits during the 90-day period for any reason whatsoever. But that persons who would have already been in the system and have been employed and would require a renewal of the work permit, those will be permitted.
The Argentinian Senate has unanimously approved 2 bills on the Malvinas Islands. One of the bills establishes the implementation of a new demarcation of the outer limit of the Argentinian continental shelf, and the other establishes the creation of a national council for matters related to the territory. The bills will now go to the Chamber of Deputies for final approval. Officials pointed out that this legislation represents another step in the state policy that Argentina has been developing for more than 2 decades regarding the islands and the dispute over their sovereignty with the United Kingdom, which continues to conduct military exercises in the region. In Mexico, Senator Marta Lucía Mitchell announced that the nation will apply the Spotlight Initiative in the fight against gender violence with the support of the United Nations. The senator announced that legislation in the field will be reformed. Meanwhile, the representative of UN Women in Mexico, Belén Sanz Luque, explained that the Spotlight Initiative is a worldwide alliance focused on the prevention and elimination of all forms of violence against women and girls. Luque noted that Mexico was chosen for its implementation due to the high rates of femicide in the country and stressed that it will serve as a model for other countries in the region. In Mexico, work is progressing on the Felipe Angelis International Airport, one of the most important infrastructure works of the government of President Andrés Manuel López Obrador, and considered one of the key elements in confronting the economic crisis sparked by the coronavirus pandemic. Our correspondent in Mexico City, Eduardo Martinez, brings more details.
Across 1,531 hectares of land, an air terminal is being built which, according to the Mexican government, will be the most modern in Latin America. The project contemplates the construction of facilities for both military and commercial use.
In total, the airport will have 2 commercial runways and a third one that will be exclusively for military operations.
Felipe Angeles International Airport will have the capacity to welcome 20 million passengers each year and will complement the operations of the current terminal located 45 kilometers away. The works undertaken by personnel of the Secretariat of National Defense continue despite the health emergency sparked by the coronavirus and under strict preventive measures.
The use of face masks, distancing, and even dividing personnel over different shifts. Shifts had been implemented in the administrative area and staff had been sent to work from home to avoid crowding.
With more than 600 days of construction remaining, the progress is significant. Since the beginning of the work in October 2019, and to date, 32,000 civilian jobs have been generated.
There is no intermediary. Everything is directly between the Secretariat of National Defense and the final worker, or the final suppliers who bring service and materials.
President Andrés Manuel López Obrador committed to inaugurating the airport complex on March 21, 2022. In addition, he assured that the cost will be much lower than what had been forecast by the airport that the former administration began building on land surrounding Lake Texcoco.
This is an example of how a budget can suffice if you handle it honestly, and you can do more with less. It's assembled regardless of other factors. Just the cost of the work shows we are moving forward.
The budget for this airport, one of the emblematic works of the López Obrador administration, is around $3 billion, far below the $11 billion that his predecessor planned to spend on a different airport that would not have been ready until 2026. Eduardo Martinez, TeleSur, Zumpango, State of Mexico.
And we'll be right back after this short break, so don't go away. Welcome back from the south. In the United States, Democratic candidate Joe Biden is leading Donald Trump in the presidential race in Florida. According to a poll conducted by Quinnipiac University, Biden leads by 13 points in the highly important state of Florida. 51% of people who took part in the survey said that they would vote for the Democratic candidate in the upcoming presidential elections on November 3rd, while 38% said they would vote for the current US president. The same poll conducted in April gave Biden just a 4-point lead. The United States has now reported more than 4.2 million COVID-19 cases. Over 35,000 new cases were reported this Friday alone. Meanwhile, the COVID-19 death toll stands at almost 148,000. The states of New York, Florida, Texas and California are the most affected, and many states have been forced to reimpose restrictions as the epidemic shows no signs of slowing. And President Donald Trump has cancelled the Republican National Convention scheduled to be held in Florida next month, citing a flare-up of the coronavirus.
Time to cancel the Jacksonville, Florida component of the GOP convention. Will be starting in North Carolina for the Monday, as has always been planned. We were never taking that off. That's remaining as it is. The delegates are going to get together. That's where they do their nomination. So the delegates are going to North Carolina, and they'll be doing the nomination.
China on Friday ordered the US consulate in the southwestern city of Chengdu to close in response to the United States' decision ordering the Chinese consulate in Houston to shut down.
On the morning of July 24th, China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs informed the U.S. Embassy in China of its decision to withdraw its consent for the operation of the Consulate General in Chengdu, and also made specific requirements on the ceasing of operations and events in the Consulate General. The current situation in bilateral relations is not what China desires to see, and the U.S. is completely responsible for this. Once again, we urge the U.S. to immediately retract its wrong decisions and create necessary conditions for bringing relations between the two countries back on track. Some of the personnel in the U.S. Consulate General in Chengdu engaged in activities inconsistent with their capacities and interfered in China's internal affairs and harmed China's national security interests. China has repeatedly made representations to the former consulate, and America is aware of this.
Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova stressed on Friday that Moscow and Beijing have become the main targets of an information war led by Western media. Zakharova made the statement during a video conference with her Chinese counterpart, Hua Changyin. The comments come after Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said Russia would not be interested in joining a United States alliance against China, following US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo's call for a broad alliance against Beijing on Thursday. Peskov said that Russia does not participate in any alliances against anyone and that China was Russia's ally and partner.
It is not just aggressive rhetoric that is backed up by no less aggressive actions. Now it's an attempt to provoke a public clash between Russia and China. And I can assure you that they will not succeed in this. But the fact that we've registered this, that these provocations from our Western partners, foremost the United States, take place, is a very serious sign.
A 3-year-old girl has become Belgium's youngest known victim of the coronavirus as the country confronts a worrying surge in new cases. A health spokesman noted that 3 people die each day from COVID-19 in Belgium, including recently the toddler and an 18-year-old boy. The official warned against complacency among the healthy, highlighting that no one is immune to the virus. Belgium has now reported nearly 65,000 COVID-19 cases. Prime Minister Sophie Wilms announced tougher rules on wearing masks in public places and postponed plans to further ease lockdown measures next month.
A few days ago, a 3-year-old child died from a COVID-19 infection. This news touches all of us deeply, both as scientists and as parents. I would like to take this opportunity to express my most sincere condolences to the family.
And we have more stories coming up after this final short break, so stay with us. From the south. The Saudi Arabian city of Mecca, Islam's holiest city, is preparing to welcome pilgrims for the Hajj, which will begin on July 29th. Pilgrimage has been scaled back dramatically to include only around 1,000 Muslim pilgrims instead of some 2.5 million seen each year as the nation battles the COVID-19 pandemic. According to health officials, pilgrims will be tested for the coronavirus before arriving in Mecca and are required to undertake a quarantine period at home after the ritual. Saudi Arabia has recorded over 260,000 COVID-19 cases and more than 2,600 deaths. On Friday, Ethiopia and Japan signed a grant agreement with the aim of increasing the African country's capacity to stop the spread of COVID-19. The agreement includes the purchase of medical equipment and supplies for a value of $13.6 million. The document was signed by Ethiopian Minister of Finance Ahmed Shide and the ambassador of Japan to the country. The ambassador stressed that this agreement will strengthen the friendship between the peoples of Japan and Ethiopia. According to the latest report from the Ministry of Health, the African nation has registered nearly 12,000 COVID-19 cases, while over 190 people have lost their lives. The Chinese government has recently donated a batch of anti-epidemic supplies through the Organization of African First Ladies for Development to help 53 African countries, including Comoros, to fight the COVID-19 pandemic.
The Chinese government has decided to donate medical supplies to 53 African countries through the Organization of African First Ladies for Development. Among them, 18,000 masks and 120 infrared thermometers are sent to Comoros, which demonstrates the profound friendship of the Chinese people to their counterparts in Comoros. I believe that these medical supplies can help women and children in Comoros to better cope with COVID-19.
India recorded a new daily record of coronavirus cases this Friday to over 49,000. The national tally now stands at over 1.3 million cases, while the death toll is over 31,000 after over 700 deaths were reported in the last few hours. According to the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, India has a high rate of recovery of patients at 63.45%, despite the high number of cases reported. Over 800,000 patients have recovered to date. India is the third most affected country by the pandemic in the world, behind the United States and Brazil. Hundreds of Muslims made their way to Istanbul's landmark Hagia Sophia on Friday to take part in the first prayers in 86 years. Turkey's move to make the emblematic site a mosque sparked criticism in Greece, the United States and among Christian churches, who called on Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan to maintain it as a museum in tribute to Istanbul's multi-religious heritage and the structure's status as a symbol of Christian and Muslim unity. Brushing aside international criticism, Erdogan issued a decree restoring the iconic building as a mosque earlier this month, shortly after a Turkish high court ruled that the Hagia Sophia had been illegally made into a museum more than 8 decades ago. Hundreds of Israelis held another protest against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu outside his residence in Jerusalem on Friday. Israelis have held a series of demonstrations in recent weeks, calling on Netanyahu to resign, citing his trial on corruption charges and his UK government's poor handling of the coronavirus pandemic. Israel imposed a nationwide lockdown when the first coronavirus cases appeared in March, and by May had largely succeeded in containing the outbreak. But it then moved quickly to lift virtually all restrictions, and in the following weeks cases surged. The country reported a total of more than 57,000 cases and over 400 deaths. Former Tanzanian President Benjamin Mkapa passed away in a hospital in Dar es Salaam. Mkapa was the country's third president after independence from Britain in 1962 and ruled for 2 terms from 1995 to 2005. He earned a degree in English in Uganda and later worked as a journalist before being appointed as the press secretary for the country's first president, Julius Nyerere. The cause of death has not yet been revealed. The Tanzanian government has announced that the country will hold a period of 7 days of mourning, during which the national flag will be flown at half-mast. And we've come to the end of this news brief, but as this Friday marked the 15th anniversary of the launch of our multimedia platform TeleSur, we leave you with the song produced by Cuban band Buena Fe and featuring a host of female Latin American voices. Remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website and on our social media pages. For TeleSur English, I'm Katrina Goss. Thank you for watching and enjoy the music.
y pobre, más humano que clientes.
Semiótica que entra al fuego desde la piel del sufrido. Júbilo que bajo fuego más se yergue convencido y suda con espuela.
Ni parlante mal nacido, negativa verdaderas, ante el falso positivo.
La espada que brilla atravesa el sol. Se levanta nuestra voz, tú eres como yo. Se levanta nuestra voz, te susurra tu corazón. Se levanta nuestra voz, entérate, despiértate, nuestra voz.
Las plazas